everybody, it's Angel from Halo Inspirations. We give you inspirations to help you spread beauty and joy through your quilting journey. Happy Fun Friday to each and every one of you. Yes, it is a fun Friday. Why is it a fun Friday? Well, first of all, it's Friday, and you never go wrong about being Friday being fun, right? So that's first and foremost. Second of all, we are foundation paper piecing, which is part of the pattern by Kimberly Jolly of Fat Quarter Shop and Lori Holt of My Bonnet. It's a free pattern that you can join along. It's never too late and it's free, right? The pattern is completely free. I'm going to put, if you're new here, I'm going to put all the descriptions down below to give you all the places for the Jolly Jabbers blog for the different weeks and the introduction that talks about the fabric requirements and the necessary papers that you will need. Now, I'm so glad that y'all stopped by this week. I missed you last week. My BF quilty friend who is doing this with me is Vicki Holloway of My Creative Corner 3. And last week she did the pineapple blocks. That's part of the way we split up our blocks. So that was hers. If you missed it, all her information is linked down below. You should check out those beautiful pineapple blocks and learn a little bit about Vicki if you haven't already. She is a fantabulous quilter, and I must say a fantabulous friend. And everybody can use a little Vicki in their life, I promise you. However, you're here now. This is the fourth block in foundation paper piecing for the BF Quilt Along. And it is all about Courthouse Steps. So let's go ahead and get started having some fun. So here we are, and this one naturally is not in the program, but this is a Courthouse Step, and this is my actual trial run. This is what I did to get a little practice. You get plenty of papers in those pads that Fat Quarter Shop offers. So I highly encourage you to do one block with some scrap fabric just to make sure you know what you're doing and you feel comfortable with the pattern and how it works. This was exactly my trial run, but it turned out really nice, and then I was ready for the real thing. Now, as far as Courthouse Steps go, they say it's a variation of a log cabin, and in a lot of ways it is, but it's just not all about color placement. Yes, you'll see, this is my log cabin. Let me move this over just slightly so you can see it better. Yes, it does have where we're going in rounds. Well, actually, this one isn't in rounds. This one's in rounds, but the colors, these are all colored on one side. These have colors throughout the center out, the center out. And if you'll also notice, we have a small square here where we have 3 small squares here. So there are some slight differences, but they're very, very similar. So I will agree with that. Now, if you're new to foundation paper piecing or new to this pattern, you can go back in the playlist and you can find the log cabin and the economy block to help you along with any tips and tricks that I show. And I go pretty extensive with the log cabin to give you a real good idea of what is going on. But here we are, log cabin. And if you'll notice, we have a solid, and then block, the second block being number 2, the third block being number 3, 4, 5. Now you're building cross each time, but it's still solid background, or I should say printed, not necessarily solid, but it's 2 by 2, right? So again, I built kits, and I have my solid, my I keep saying solid, but my printed fabric, my 2 backgrounds, 2 printed, 2 backgrounds in the right sizes according to the pattern. Now, I will tell you, I don't typically foundation paper piece where I cut strips necessarily like this, but I wanted to try it for exactly how the pattern was printed so that I could give you more suggestions on and seeing some things that went wrong. So the first one we're going to do, and I always want to do the first one with you guys, is the center. And again, the first one goes right side up, okay? and you're going to hold it up to the light. And if you need to remember what that means, it doesn't have to be a window, just any kind of light. But you can check out the log cabin block. I give a little bit more detail. Plus I have another video. It's Introduction to Foundation Paper Piecing, and you can actually see me holding up the paper. So I'll put those two links here. But I'm going to hold this up, and I'm just going to make sure that the fabric is going to cover a 1/4 inch all the way around. Whoop. And then we're going to flip it over, and I got to do it again. So first thing I'm actually going to do, because I can kind of see the lines, I'm going to put some glue in here. You don't have to use glue, you can use a pin, but I'm loving my glue. So right side facing up, I'm going to hold it up to the light again, get it positioned. And once I have it where I want it to be, I'll put it back down on the table and press it in so that it sticks with the glue. Okay? Now, the next two are going to be white. Okay? So where my blue is, that's my white background. So I'm going to do 2 whites next. Now, I'm not going to sew them with you, but I'm going to show you again what I did. I don't want to lose my fabric, put a pin where the number 2 is, between the 1 and a 2, because that's the line I'm going to stitch. And by placing this pin here, when I flip it over, I can kind of see where my stitch line is based off of the pin. And then I'm just going to grab a ruler, and I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch line, which is right in here, right below that lip for the add a 1/4 ruler. And if I really want it to be super straight, I can line it up with the edge of the paper over here as best as I can. And then I'm going to take my disappearing ink. Now, I will tell you, this is in the seam that will get cut, and it's also on the back of the fabric, so nobody's going to see that. But at this point, I would lay down my square on top like so, and I'm going to pin it. And at this point, I would take it to my sewing machine, pull that pin out, and sew right along this line between 1 and 2. Okay, and do everything else like normal for the last 2 blocks that I shared with you. But I want to share you this. So what I started to notice is I was sewing these lines crooked. So what I ended up doing is I ended up giving myself a little bit of leadway to get my momentum started. Now, if you don't want to do that and you still want to start and stop, I would highly suggest that you pick one side of this line, and you got to keep it consistent. If you start on this side of the line and when you come across you're on this side, it's going to make your blocks look slanted. Okay, so you really got to pay attention to these blocks and making sure they're straight. And I did that by starting off a little early and working my way down. Now when you do that, if you go to fold this to cut it, you are going to see that my paper doesn't fold on the stitch line. So what I've been doing, I did not back stitch up here, so I've been holding down these threads and just pulling on the paper a little bit, holding them down until I get to my stitch line. Now this is after I add my next row, and I'll show you what I mean, but I just hold them down until I get to the stitch line, and I don't have a stitch line because I haven't stitched it yet, but I would then be able to cut my 1/4 inch seam. This is my stitch line. I don't have a block there yet. So what I would end up doing is I would put, well, we got to do this right. We're going to put a little line on number 4. We're going to do number 4 since I haven't done that one yet. Just like so. Okay. We're going to take our ruler, And we're going to draw a line. I'm trying to keep this straight. Like I said, you can use the edge of the paper like I just did. And we're going to draw a nice straight line. Okay. Now that might not look straight because my inside the seams, these pieces I laid on may not be completely straight, and that is fine. Then we would line this up. This piece right here goes right side down. So the only one that is right side up is your centerpiece. All of the rest of them are wrong side up, right side up, 2 through 13. 2 through 13 is going to be right side down or wrong side up. So I would simply take a pin, pin it, okay, flip it over, pull this pin out, and stitch along this line. And like I said, once this is stitched, your fabric here is not going to go down that far because you've stitched past this line. So hold on to those threads while you tear that paper off. And notice I pulled it out on this side. The paper is perforated, but it's still intact. So if you want to give yourself some momentum, that is completely perfect. You just want to make sure you're stitching straight. Once you have sewn 4 on and 5 on, and you go to pull back to cut your seam with your add a quarter ruler, you're going to need to hold these down while you pull that paper so you don't rip those seams out, okay? That is one reason why even when I don't do this crazy method of cutting exact strips, that is one reason that I always start and stop where the lines are, so that I don't have to worry about these extra seams. But it is an option, especially if you're trying to get a straight line. Let's see if I've already done it here. I haven't. So I was in the process of stitching this one. We'll just pull that out. Okay, I'm going to flip this over. You can see I've done a little bit. I'm just trying to get that to lay flat. So I'm going to hold these stitches down. It'll pull it a little bit. This piece needs to go down. I would take my add a quarter ruler and cut along that edge. Just like so. Okay, but you want this to fold at the seam. So if you stitch up past it, just make sure you hang on to those seams while you fold your paper back far enough, okay? That was one of my tips. That is what I found I had to do, was draw those little extra lines to get started. So I sewed a straight line, and it made it a lot easier for me before I hit this next 4 and 5, okay? That is the biggest one, but I have one here that is all finished. So you're going to do the pattern fabric, the printed fabric, your backgrounds, your printed, your backgrounds, your printed, your backgrounds, and your printed. And you should come out where your fabric goes to at least this line. And again, on this on this ruler, this line right here happens to be dotted, so it makes it really easy for me to line up along the line that says do not trim this line. We're going to trim on this line. So I'm going to line up my 1/4 inch ruler, or my 1/4 inch ruler, line up my ruler with the 1/4 inch line on the inside line. Okay, get it nice and straight. And give it a cut. Turn it, line it up again. Give it a cut. Turn it, line it up again. Whoop, got a little crazy. Got to be on the inside line. See, if it's out here and you're on the outside line, you'll have no paper to cut. So you'll know if it's not lined up on the right line because you want this extra paper along here. Line it up nice and pretty. Give it a cut. Turn it again. And by doing this, you are going to end up with an exact 6.5 unfinished block. Just like that. Okay? So, those are my tips and tricks for the Courthouse Steps. I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so that's the Courthouse Steps, just some tips and tricks on how I saw things. And you know, as far as that center goes, sewing a little lopsided, you know, there are just some days when your sewing is just not on. And I had one of them days. And I just wanted to share a little tip in case you're finding yourself in that place, because with these Courthouse Steps, that slant will show. It definitely will. And they're too darling, and it's not a hard pattern. It's just one of those strange moments. The rest of the lines were straight. It was just that center. So giving myself a little momentum really helped keep those lines much straighter. So I just wanted to share that tip for sure, because I know I'm not alone in the idea that sometimes you just have an off day. It was my off day, and it happens. So at any rate, this is the 4th out of 5 weeks for the BF Quilt Along, and every week they have released part of the pattern on Thursdays on the Jolly Jabbers, which is Fat Quarter Shop's blog. All those links are down below, but we have one more week. And so I will be here next week for that final week to just do a little talking and giving a little bit more tips and tricks just to round this up for you guys. I hope you're enjoying this. It's an absolutely beautiful free pattern that Kimberly Jolly and Lori Holt both put together as BFFs that they are. And it's just a fantabulous idea to be able to quilt with all your BF quilty friends, no matter where you are living across the world, across the states, or right next door. So, and you can also do it by yourself if you're so inclined, but you know, because it's such a gorgeous pattern. It truly is. But at any rate, I will be here, or not here, I will be on Facebook today at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our Facebook Halo page. The link for that is also down below. So I hope to see y'all there for a little live quilting and answers. But until next time, guys, enjoy yourself, enjoy your weekend. Happy Friday to you, and may you continue to be inspired, productive, and joyful, and never stop making your dreams in quilting come true. I love y'all. Thanks for stopping by. Happy quilting.